Hey guys, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another painting tutorial. This one is kind of an extension onto one that I did a few weeks ago, and it is flesh tones again. This time though, we're going to go with darker flesh tones. But before we jump into all that, if you like these videos, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop a comment down below with your thoughts, opinions, and if you have better recipes that I haven't worked out. Right, before we jump into everything, these are two methods I have been taught and I've been told about by friends. When I've asked them how they've painted it up, this is how they've done it. I'm not going to say this is gospel, and I'm not going to say it is the correct way to do it, and I'm not going to say it's the wrong way to do it. However, I'm always a bit hit and miss with it, so I'm not going to say that this is 100% brilliant. Let's crack on, shall we? So, the first method is the more complex of the two. So start off with a base coat of Rhinox hide over your chosen primer. So whether it's Mechanica Standard Grey like I'm using, or white, or if you're using, I don't know, whatever. As long as you cover the entirety of a model, doing it how you want to do it works very well. As you can see, I'm using an ogre model as well because there's plenty of flesh on show to give that right kind of look that you might be after. Then once that's dry, all you do is layer over Nuln oil over the entirety of the flesh. Make sure you get it into all them creases, folds, crevasses, whatever you want to call them on the model, and it works very, very well. It will just take quite a while to dry because it is a shade. Once that's dry, you just layer back over with Rhinox hide over all the flat edges. So very, very simple to do. So cover up like the larger flat areas of the chest, just don't go into all them creases and crevasses on the model, on the flesh, because you will be undoing what you've already done, which nobody wants that. Then once all that's dry, all you do is a mix of 1-in-1 of Rhinox hide and Mournfang brown, when I can learn to speak, and you do your edges with it. It's slightly lighter, and it will dry a little bit darker than how it will look when you're painting it. This is the more complex part to everything that's going on, and the next step is also a little bit more complex, but it gives you some very nice look to it. So once all that's dry and you're done with that, and you've done all the edge highlighting that you want to, do exactly the same. So a mix of Rhinox hide with Mournfang brown, but then add Cadian flesh to it as well, and this lightens it up a lot more. It gives you a bit of a kind of fleshier kind of look in a roundabout way, and that's it pretty much. So you just do it a slightly smaller bit on the edge highlights as well, so you're not covering the entirety of the edge highlight that you did before. And that is the finished product. So as you can see, I've given him a ginger beard and moustache. Looks a bit different, it looks a bit wacky, but that's how I like these ogres to look, and I want them to look a bit cooler and a bit different. And as you can see, all them edges are just done a little bit lighter as well, so it works quite well, and it gives you quite a nice look on your model. Then moving on to method number two. Method number two is a bit easier. You start off with dryad bark. So exactly the same way, dryad bark over the entirety of the flesh areas. Make sure you go into all the creases and all the gaps and the lower edges essentially. And it'll work very, very well. This is parts of this method though do seem a little bit weird, but stick with it because it works quite nicely really. Once all that's dry, layer over Druchii Violet. This is the odd part to it. Druchii Violet, it dries darker in all them crevasses and everything like that, so it will work quite well, but it feels weird when you're doing it, and it looks a bit weird until it dries. You also do see a little tiny bit of that purple, kind of hint of purple in kind of like certain areas of the model as well, but it does work. And then, exactly the same as before, layer over the base coat. So dryad bark over the flat areas of the model, of the flesh. Make sure you hit where you're going to highlight later on as well, and all that flat areas. And it works pretty well. It does. It just looks and feels a bit odd in a way. And then once that is done, all you do is edge highlight Gore brown. Very, very simple. That is literally the final step of that method. However, though, if you want to change it up, you don't have to use Gore brown. What you could do is mix a bit of dryad bark with Cadian flesh tone. It will change it completely. It will give it a bit of a different look, and it'll look probably a little bit more unusual. But it's entirely up to you if you want to do it. But it would work. It's an odd choice to make. It just depends if you're happy and you feel comfortable with mixing a little bit of paint together. And that is him done as well. So another guy, another ogre done. As you can see, his eye is not painted too brilliantly, and I could have probably done a bit better with that, but I'm not very good at painting the eyes because they are pretty tiny on the ogres. But yeah, these guys are going to go with the current ogres I've got from Feast of Bones set that came out last year and was near enough impossible to get hold of. And yeah, they're kind of shaping up really, really well. So yeah, as you can see, I've done the Tyrant and I've done a banner carrier and a guy shouting as well. I've forgotten what that unit's called. But these will fit in very, very well, and I'm slowly progressing through the rest of them when I've kind of thought of other flesh tones to do and different ways of doing flesh tone. And that is it. Dead simple. Couple more quick flesh tone ways of painting that you can do very, very easily without faffing around too much. These guys are going to work very, very well in pretty much any army that you do. If you're doing it on a small level though, mixing the paints might be a bit of a pain in the ass, and you might end up using more paint than you're going to actually use if you are going to do them on, say, like faces, for instance, on, say, like your Stormcast. You might end up doing 1 or 2 faces with it and not much more than that. So it would use up a lot more paint than you probably need to doing it, especially in that first method. But if you use the second method, it'll be absolutely fine, and you shouldn't use too much paint on that. But that is it. Dead simple, as I say. With these, as I've said before, these aren't 100%. So if you have a better method of doing it, drop me a comment down below and I'll have a look into it and I'll give it a try. I've always, well, I say I've always got a model to try it on, I always haven't, but I can always give it a crack and see what goes on with it. And yeah, as per usual though guys, if you've made it this far through the video, thank you very, very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the very near future. Bye bye now.